I'm going to set you up for embroidering a built-in design. I have just turned on my machine and I've hooped my fabric up. So let's take it from here. First off, you will always get the calibration message on your screen. It says remove hoop, clear the embroidery arm for calibration, and touch OK. So once this does this, number one, I always make sure what's behind the machine is been moved and let that arm do its full little cycle. And that little noise at the end, that's normal. The other thing that I've done is made sure to position my embroidery machine and unit a little bit further away from the front of the table. That means that this arm right here is not extending past the edge of my cabinet. I have seen in our classes sometimes people will spin in their chairs and their chair will hit that embroidery arm. Well, that bumps off the design. So I always make sure that they push it just a little bit further. Just make sure that if you have a wall back here, that your hoop, when all the way to its furthest position, doesn't hit the wall. So give yourself a little bubble when you're embroidering. So I'm going to go ahead and slide this on. And to go ahead and attach it, just go ahead and slide that little part of the hoop into the mouth until you hear a click. Click. Okay. So for selecting a built-in design, we're going to go up to the little flower for designs. And I have one all picked up. We're all threaded and we have the white bobbin thread in our bobbin. So I'm going to come down. Have you noticed all the cool designs that are in this machine? You really need to take some time to stitch them out. So we're going to go ahead and pick this design. If you want to see something cool, touch the question mark and then touch the design. It'll tell you the name of the design, what size it is, total stitch count, and how many colors. I was looking for a design that was not a long stitching and with one color. So that's why I picked this one for today. So I'm going to go ahead and select it. Now watch what happens. Immediately, the machine tells me I should be using a much smaller hoop, the 120 by 120, because that will give you the best results. Well, for today, we're going to be doing a variety of embroideries. So we are going to first select the hoop and tell it what size we're using. You can look right here on the hoop. It'll tell you 360 by 200. So scroll all the way to the top. Biggest hoops are at the top. And notice there was a lot of hoops on this list, and you probably don't own them all. We have a video to show you how you can go up into the settings and select my hoops to be able to redefine which hoops you do own, and the machine will then only pick the hoops that you actually have. So with the design in the 360 by 200 hoop, you notice my playground gets much bigger, and I can move the design in the upper part. So if I want to get it in that top corner, one of the things that I like to do is just actually slide it right outside the dotted lines. Okay, it's outside. And up in that top corner, so it's outside on the left and outside at the top. And there's a function, the exact name is move to hoop. And I use this a lot to bump the design right into that top corner, making it really easy to be utilizing every single inch of the hoop. So if I just move it out to the side, it will just bump it in straight to the side. But if I slide that all the way to the top corner, it bumps it in to the top corner. So we will go through all these different functions throughout the videos, but for right now I want to just show you how this embroiders. When you're ready, you're going to touch go. It's going to double check that the hoop that I told it we put on was put on, and if you didn't, it would come up with a message and say, please attach correct hoop, and so forth. So what we're going to do is just hold on to this top thread, and we're going to touch the stop button. Once you count to 3, 1, 2, 3, pull that thread, and out it comes. So we're just going to go ahead and let it stitch through the design. We'll look at tension at the end. Right down here, it tells me I've got about 5,600 stitches within that design. That does not actually take very long to stitch. And as you get used to embroidering more designs, you'll notice that you look there and it says, say, 20,000 stitches. You go, okay, I've got time to do that. You want to make sure that you can kind of finish the designs that you start and try not to leave designs unfinished overnight in a hoop. Things kind of relax over time. So I always take a peek down here. Technically, this is going to take 11 minutes. Sometimes that kind of quickly adjusts as it goes a little faster throughout the design. But we'll just go ahead, we'll let this stitch, and I'll meet you at the end of the design. These two different lines of stitches you're going to notice are underlay stitches. They're securing the fabric to the stabilizer, but they're giving the satin stitch, which is stitching over both of those lines, a little bit more of a raised look. It's really a nice refined finish. You see that a lot within a good digitized design. So we're almost done here, and then we're going to flip this over and look at the tension, what we're looking for on the back of our embroidery. As you can see, things look so much better stitched out. What we saw on the screen was a picture, but when you see it in life, stitched in thread with that sheen, it really comes to life. So anytime you can stitch out a sample, and I always say to stitch on a nice piece of fabric, even if it's just a nice cotton, like a white on white or tone on tone, maybe a nice Kona solid fabric, then when you have a design that actually finishes up beautiful, like this one, there's the cut, and the little music at the end. Love that. You really can see that, what I was saying was when we have the design that really looks good, when it turns out, we can use it at a later time. To remove the hoop, go ahead and push down on the lever and pull with a little strength on the front of the hoop. Once you pull this out, you're going to notice that the cutter also cut the bobbin thread. It does that at the end at the very last color change. Since this just had one color, that's where it finished up. Isn't that beautiful? You really see a nice finish when you actually get to see it in thread. So we see everything has been perfectly stitched on the front. So what are we going to see on the back side? What you're looking for is a little bit of the color from the top getting pulled to the back. Your bobbin tension, or I should say the top tension in the embroidery mode, has been reduced. And so it will allow more of that thread to pull to the back, which is what we want. We don't want any of that white bobbin thread coming to the top. But should we have any of that issue, that's where you can change the thread portioning. So it starts at 50, and if you need to reduce it a little bit, just go ahead and minus it down. It jumps in numbers of 5, so 45 or 40, should you see any of the bobbin thread coming to the top. But honestly, most of the time, if your machine is properly serviced and running smoothly, everything's cleaned, you can just leave that at 50, and you're going to be good to go. So once I go ahead and take this out, you can go ahead and release the clips. The quick release allows you just to flip that out and pull this out, and then we tear the stabilizer away from the design. Since this is just a cotton fabric, that design is going to be perfect when it's all said and done. So follow us for some of the other tutorials as we explore more about alphabets and other embroidery styles.